Hey, how's it going? So it's Sunday. We thought we'd make something a bit special, a bit nice, and so we're doing some burgers and chips. Not any burgers, we're doing some homemade black bean burgers with homemade rolls and homemade chips. So this is all a from scratch kind of meal, which can take a bit longer, but tends to be a little bit healthier, can make it just how you like it, and also tends to be a little bit cheaper. Hello, Andrew.
Hi.
Hang on, if I'm here and you're here, who the hell's operating the camera?
I've got a tripod.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so...
We've got all technical, haven't we?
We have got all technical.
We've got all
yes.
technical.
So that means I can help you out a little bit more with
Amazing,
the
amazing.
clicking.
But we don't know if you're going to be having the camera angled
Well,
in
I
the
think
right
I did
position.
a really good job already today because you sent me off with a shopping list to get some really awkward bits and pieces.
I did, yeah. I gave him a specific shopping list, but he did really well.
I came through.
Even at finding, this would have been a challenge,
I had to go to the Continental.
cornmeal. You can, if you don't have cornmeal, you can use polenta. But I sent Andrew off, see if you can find some cornmeal, and he blooming did it.
Got it.
What a hero. Right, so this is my basic bread recipe. I am changing it up a little bit today because I do normally just do it with white flour, but I've got some wholemeal bread flour, so I thought I'd actually do a bit of a half and half. People in this household tend to like white bread a little bit more, but I thought let's go a little bit healthier, so I'm doing a bit of a 50-50 loaf. So you need 3 cups of flour. So of course what I'm going to do is 1.5 of white. Let's pop that down, keep that cup steady. Whoop. Actually, that's probably a bit over a half, but never mind. And then 1.5 of wholemeal. I've not actually tried this with all wholemeal flour because I don't know how my recipe will hold up. You know, sometimes things work better with different sorts of ingredients, and baking is quite a... Maybe I should really research into a good wholemeal bread recipe. But this is sort of my tried and tested. So essentially 3 cups of flour, bread flour, strong bread flour, not like self-raising or whatever. 1 sachet of yeast.
I think I did pretty well finding that in the supermarket as well.
You did,
Yeah.
you did good. Okay, some salt, about a teaspoon of salt. This I'm not so fussed about getting exact, you know. But I'd say that's about a teaspoon, and about a teaspoon of sugar. So that's all the dry ingredients. Then we need about a tablespoon of oil. I'm using some extra virgin olive oil, but you can just use sunflower oil. That's absolutely fine. And then I need a cup of hot water. So hand hot water. So I'll just get my tap up to a nice hot temperature. Okay. So there we go. So the mixture in. Now I'm doing this in my KitchenAid with the dough hook. It takes about 5 minutes on the lowest setting. Oh, why is that not going in? There we go. If you don't have a mixer, you can of course mix this by hand. Absolutely fine. Probably more noble to do it that way, but I've got a good mixer, so I use it. So you just combine it with your hand and then get it out and start kneading it. And you probably need to knead it for about 10 minutes if you're doing it that way. Because the mixer is so efficient, 5 minutes is fine. After which time, this dough will need to prove, so it needs a nice warm place to leave it. So what I tend to do is this. I put my oven on literally the lowest heat possible. I'll just take these tins out and that middle shell. So I just literally put the oven on the lowest heat possible, let it preheat for about a couple of minutes and then turn it off. And that heat that's in the oven will be just the right amount of temperature for the dough to rise. You can of course put it in a warm airing cupboard or somewhere else, like near a warm radiator or somewhere like that. But I always use the oven, it just makes it more simple for me being in the kitchen. So I'm just going to let this oven heat for literally a couple of minutes and then turn it off. Let this mix for 5 minutes and then we get back to you. So the dough is proving in the oven at the moment. So I just literally covered it with some cling film with a spritz of olive oil on the underside. So that is in there. It will take about 45 minutes to an hour. And now I'm going to start getting the burger mixture ready. So we've got a tin of black beans. What I need to do is open this. Okay, so I've rinsed them off and give them a good old rinse, got all the liquid off of them, drain them off. They're going in my basin and I'm going to put these in the microwave for 1 minute, just to soften them up. Okay, so they've been in the microwave for a minute. It just softens them up and it makes them easier to mash. So, I'm just going to grab my trusty potato masher and just give them a little smush down. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this in the food processor. Doing it by hand's better because you don't want them to completely lose everything about them and be like a mush. Keep them a little bit chunky. Next, I'm going to add in some red pepper. So this is from a jar of roasted red peppers. I've taken one big piece of pepper out and finely chopped it. You can also roast a whole red pepper yourself, cool it and chop it. It's a little bit more time intensive. It's probably slightly cheaper to do it that way, but this just works, so let's do this.
Well, then also these are, they're in oil as well, aren't they? So, you know...
Actually, I think these are in brine.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, but I have patted them down with some paper towels. So anyway, we're going to add some spices now. So I've got some ground cumin. I'm going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of each of these. So ground cumin. I've got some cayenne pepper. I've got some onion salt. And I've also got some garlic powder. Now feel free to add slightly different flavourings if you prefer. If you've got something that you really like, you can put that in. If there's something you don't like, leave it out. You know, this is just the basic model of a recipe. So I'm just going to mash all this together with those peppers and the flavours. It's turning into quite a smushy kind of paste.
You can smell that pepper in there.
You can smell it, can't you? Right, so let's get it all off the masher. And this is where we're ready to add the cornmeal. So you can, if you don't have cornmeal or you can't get hold of it, polenta would work, but you could just use some flour if that's something that's easier for you. It's just a dry ingredient that will help to bind it. So I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons. We may add some more, we'll see how it goes. Let's just give it a good mix. Actually, I think that's probably the right amount, 2 tablespoons. Okay. Make sure everything's really combined. Oh, that looks perfect, actually. So now I need a little baking sheet. You do need some greaseproof paper. I just realised as I went to get it out of the cupboard that somebody's used it up. The empty box was in the cupboard, but not the actual, the stuff's all gone, which I'm sure is a story that many people have had in their own households with these kind of things. But what I do have is some of these air fryer liners, which are essentially made of greaseproof paper. So hopefully they should work in the same way. So I've just got one of those on my baking sheet. And now I'm going to start making these into burgers. So I'm hoping to get 4 or potentially 5 out of this mix. So I just want to kind of like get it into balls first in equal quantities. I see one of them is slightly smaller, so I will potentially, yeah, just add a little bit of the, sorry Andrew, the remaining mix to this one, to make them quite equal. Okay, so to me that looks quite an equal job like that. Okay, so let's put them onto the baking sheet here. And then I'm just going to basically press them all down, round them off a little bit, so that they're in kind of the burger shapes that we want them to be in. Give them a bit of space. Okay. Okay, I think that looks pretty reasonable. So I'm now going to chill these. I'm going to pop this whole tray into the fridge It just helps things to combine together better if they're a little bit chilled before they get cooked. And of course we've got plenty of time because the dough's still doing its thing and the chips still need to be done. These actually only take about 20 minutes to cook. So I'm going to chill these now and we'll get them out right before we're ready to cook them. Okay, so I've just started on the chips. So I've used some whole potatoes. I've left the skin on. I quite like skin on chips. The skin's really good for you anyway. There's more fibre in there and nutrients. They reckon all the nutrients of a potato are in the skin, so it's quite good to add them if you can. So I've cut them into chips and I've just had them parboiling for literally about 7 minutes, something like that. So I'm going to drain them off into my colander, which is sitting helpfully in the sink there, so it's a bit steamy at this moment. Just make sure they're completely drained off and there's no water left in them. Okay, so it's okay to let these cool a little bit before you roast them. So I'm quite happy to have them sitting here for about, I don't know, however long they need to be until they're going to go into the oven. It should probably be, I reckon, about 20 minutes or so. So we can let them cool off a little bit. But what I will do is add to them what I'm going to add to them to cook. So I'm just going to drizzle them with a little bit of olive oil. And then, of course, some salt and pepper. And then what you can do is you can really add whatever you want to add. So if you want them to be a bit Cajun-y, you can add some cayenne pepper, some paprika, some chili. If you want them to be a little bit more like herby, you can add some mixed herbs, whatever you've got in, whatever you fancy. We're doing with these with some black bean burgers, as you know. So I thought perhaps if we just add a little sprinkling of smoked paprika in there, like so. And then maybe some, I've got some chipotle chili flakes, just a little pinch of that. Not too much, eh, Andrew? Let's go easy. And let's see what else we've got. You can kind of make this up as you go along, really, you know. You don't have to follow a specific recipe that I tell you. Just make it your own. Let's see what else we fancy. I just pulled out the sumac. Don't mind a little bit of sumac. It's more of a Middle Eastern sort of flavouring, but it's got a nice warming spice. It's not too hot. So we just add a little bit of that in there as well. But like I say, add whatever you like. So I'm just going to pop the lid back on and give these a little bit of a mix, just like that. Just to let everything coat them. And then I will actually leave them lid off because you don't want them to sweat too much. Let them dry out a little bit, let them cool down a little bit. And so when we're ready to put them in the oven and be cooked, they'll be absolutely perfect. Okay, so my dough has been rising. It's all looking good. Let's take a little peek at it if you want to come over here, Andrew. So as you can see, it's definitely doubled in size. It's looking really nice. So we're now going to turn this into some buns for our burgers. So first up, I'm just going to spritz over with a bit of oil on my little baking sheet here. This is what the burger buns are going to go onto. And then just a little bit of flour as well. So I just grab a little handful of flour out here and just pop that over, and this will just stop it all from sticking. And then what I'll do, I'll get the mixture out of the pan. And of course, as soon as you start handling it, it loses some of the air, but don't worry, that will come back on its second proof, which I'll come back to in a moment. So I need 4 buns because we've got 4 burgers. So I'm just going to cut this into 4 relatively equal pieces. Sometimes it can be quite hard to get it exact. Let's just pop it on here with the flour. And then, oh, I've used my knife that's had the cayenne pepper on, but that's okay.
That's going to be a spicy bun.
That's all right, that's okay. Don't worry about that. So let's just round these all off into some nice bun type shapes, some nice rounds. Now, when I cook my rolls, any sort of rolls that I do, I don't mind them joining together. You know how sometimes you get a pack of like 6 or 4 rolls in a pack and they're kind of attached and you have to tear them apart? I quite like that. So I don't mind having these on my tray very close together, and it just gives them that opportunity to join together if they, you know, rise in that way. So here are my rolls, and again, just another little sprinkling of flour over them. I don't mind a nice floury bun. If you wanted to, you can add some sesame seeds to the top. We're not going to do that on this occasion, but that is an option for you. So we're just going to pop these together. Two of them are a little bit, that one's a bit smaller to be fair compared to that one, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right, I'm going to grab my piece of cling film, keeping the oil side again down on top of the buns. And then I've just got a tea towel over the top. They're just going to sit on top of the oven. It's just coming to the right temperature. I've preheated the oven to cook these about 180 to 200. So yeah, about 190 then. I'm just going to let them sit here for about 10 minutes. They're just going to have their second proof, which will just make them rise a little bit more before they go into the oven. So they are all ready. We'll come back to you in a moment when they're ready to go in. 2 trays here. We might not actually need all these chips to be fair.
It does seem like quite a lot of chips.
I do sometimes overestimate on the carbs. So potentially when we're making like a curry or something, I'll make too much rice. When it's something like this, I'll make too many chips. But people love them. You know, people always come back for a few more. So they will all get eaten. They're always eaten, aren't they? Have you ever thrown chips away in the food waste caddy, Andrew? I don't think so. So they're all in. Chips are in, bread rolls are in. The bread will probably only take about 20 minutes to cook, maybe 15. The chips take a little bit longer, but that's okay because it gives the rolls a little bit of time to cool down slightly before we use them for our burger buns. When they come out, I'll put the burger buns in. So we'll get back to you then. Okay, so let's see how it's all getting along. I think my buns are ready to come out of the oven.
Are they?
They so are.
Let's have a look at your buns, Judy.
Here's my buns, baby. They're looking great. Now, one way to check if any kind of bread that you're making is ready to cook is tap the bottom. It should sound hollow. So let's see. Definitely done. Definitely good. I'm going to leave those there to cool down. I'm going to put my burgers in. So they've been chilling. They're quite firmed up. I'm just going to spritz them with a little bit of oil. And these are already turning halfway through. They only need about 20 minutes. I'm going to put those right in the bottom of the oven where the bread rolls have come out of. And as I just show you, my chips, I've just given them a little turn. They're looking fab. And they also need about another 20 minutes. So everything should be ready right on time. By the time that's all done, the rolls will have cooled down nicely, enough to be ready to serve. Just to help them out a little bit, what I might do is take them off of the baking tray, which obviously will be quite warm or quite hot, and just let them cool down a little bit on my breadboard. So here we go. We can look at that. Lovely to tear them apart. They're really good rolls. I could have probably actually got 6 out of the mixture that I made and had them a little bit smaller, but these look like really nice buns, so I'm really looking forward to eating those when everything's ready. Okay, so it's all ready, it's all out of the oven and ready to be eaten. So first up, let's get a plate and one of these lovely buns. So let's do one for Andrew. Cut one of these rolls in half. These have had a little while to cool. This is a little bit warm, but they're good enough to like cut. Sometimes when they're too hot, if you cut them, they ruin. So this is good. So Andrew, what would you like on your burger?
Like the Dalai Lama, could you make me one with everything, please?
I'll make you one with everything.
Thank you.
Here are burgers. So let's put a burger on the bun there. A nice big juicy gherkin.
They're Polish gherkins, by the way.
Okay. They're Polish gherkins.
That lettuce that you're putting on there, that's Spanish.
Okay. Multicultural here.
That tomato is...
I haven't even done it yet.
no, that's from Kent. That's the lower part of England.
Tomatoes from Kent.
Yeah. And then
what about the mayonnaise, baby?
I don't know where that's from. That's from a factory somewhere.
Okay.
Don't know where it's
So
made.
we'll spread some mayo over the top of the bun there. And because we like to make things snazzy and also hold it together, let's put the lid on and spear it with a nice wooden stake. And then we will add onto the plate some of these delicious chips.
And these chips, the potatoes are King Edward's, and I believe they came from Norfolk.
Andrew, you really researched where you brought our ingredients from, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you love a bit of ketchup, so we put a bit of that there, but I also know you love a bit of mayo, so we'll put a bit of that on there too. And there we have it. This is our finished result. A nice home-cooked bun, home-cooked burger, as you can see, the chips, and we are ready to eat our delicious dinner. And what do you think of it?
It looks pretty good.
It does look pretty good, doesn't it?
Well, I think we need to do a taste test.
Okay, Andrew, you can do a taste test. If you would like me to, I can take over the camera
Okay.
whilst you do so. There we go.
Right, so let's try one of these Norfolk chips, is it?
Might be a bit hot, babe.
A little bit hot.
They are a little bit hot, are they?
I don't know where to start with this thing. I mean, look at it.
Well, that's why I put the wooden thing in it, because it holds it all together, because it's a bit of a beefy old...
Let me get an apparatus out.
Like a knife?
I'm going to get a fork. And I'm going to try a bit of this bean burger. That's really good. There's a lot of spices there coming through.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's not very dry. With bean burgers, veggie burgers,
They can sometimes be a bit dry, I know, if you overcook them.
it's really crispy on the outside, but it's still quite moist on the inside. Let's try it with
Are you going to go for the...
a bit of everything. No, I mean, look at that.
Oh, that was a good old bite.
That was a good, wholesome burger.
You've got a little bit on your mooey.
I'm not surprised.
Enjoy your dinner.